Well, hello. I'm Ed Parcaut here with Amy Tiemeyer, and we're helping the brave. How you doing, Amy?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. So don't worry about what we see here, because on Facebook it looks fine. All right. Because sometimes the delay here will make it go good over there. So that's why I have it separate the way we're doing it. But let's get on to our show, shall we?
I think we shall.
Anything new you want to add before we get there?
Nope.
Okay, nothing at all?
Just person like my book launches tomorrow. That's exciting, but that's local to Washington.
Oh
So
my goodness. So it's not out everywhere.
well, it's out on Barnes and Nobles and Amazon, but but the
So
launch
the
is just here
so
local.
the so the party is there, but the book launch, was it done on Tuesday this week, or is it being done on Thursday? When's the book actually hit the shelves where you can order it?
It's it's on right now.
Okay,
At
so this is just your hey, Amy got a book out kind of thing, right?
absolutely.
All right, well, that's still something to celebrate, but that's something to talk about. We're still working on our veteran walk, the fire walk for veterans. So that's April 13th here in Modesto, California. We have enough for 100 veterans to walk on fire, and we're trying to get up to 300. We have 3 different places who wants to have it at their location. We're just trying to get through the different security and all the, insurance issues and all that fun stuff. So April 13th, put on your calendar, Amy, because helping the brave is helping putting this on. All right, let's bring our guest. Do you know our guest? Is this somebody new? You were telling him jokes in the green room, so do you know him or
Nope. Just
no?
no, I don't. Other than I think we bonded in the green
Okay,
room.
all right. I want to bring him out, and then so this is the first time meeting him is today.
It is.
Wow, Brett, how do you say your last name?
Chereskin.
Chereskin. All
Yeah.
right, and where you were located?
If you couldn't tell from my background, I'm in Midtown Manhattan. We're actually Soho right now in our office. It's
So what you're telling me is I need to know each one of those 3 buildings I can see over your right hand side.
There you go. I think one of them is One World Trade Center, so it's pretty
All right.
recognizable. I don't know.
It
Yeah.
okay. So sorry.
Yeah.
Now
No,
we were
yeah.
all right, man.
Go
All
ahead.
right.
Yeah.
No, good. It's fine. Amy, go ahead.
Yeah.
Start
Yeah.
thing off with your question because you always have the same question.
I do. I love my question. Why did you choose the service that you chose? And for those who don't know, you chose the U.S. Army.
Yeah. So I think I was it was a toss up for me. It was so keep in mind it was right around 2001. Actually, I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker living on Long Island, and I knew I wanted to serve, and I didn't know in what capacity, but I knew I loved flying. So I was like, how do I do this? I can, all services, all branches have aviation. So essentially, I started applying to the different, academies, and I saw one of them was Air Force Academy, and I was really pumped about flying. But at the time, my brother was a West Point cadet. So, and I'm from New York. West Point's in New York. So I was like, let's see what the admissions has to say about any of this. So ultimately, um, super pumped about the idea of being an aviator in the military. They both kind of accepted me, so I ended up going with West Point just to make it easier on my parents. So that ended up being Army. But another big differentiator, and I always call this out as like the big thing that kind of stuck with me is I went and visited each academy, and the Air Force Academy you drove in a lot of machines on sticks, like a lot of airplanes on sticks, kind of showing off and like monuments to aircraft. You drive through the gates of West Point, and there was a whole bunch of statues of people. And one of the folks, one of the professors I was talking to, he's like, "Do you want to go to a service that venerates its machines or venerates its people?" And that kind of drove it home to me, where ultimately the leadership aspect and the human aspect of the service I think was most well connected to me through the Army, and that was kind of my core decision.
I don't know if you know this, but my son's in the Army. He was an airborne medic. Now he's in Washington. He's 22, and he's like, I can't do airborne anymore. It hurts my knees.
I'm lucky. I have equal takeoffs to landings, so I didn't have to go through that process.
Yeah, well, he liked jumping out of planes. He was a snowboarder who was a little crazy. So
Oof.
he had no regard for his human safety when it came to a ball or a board. So
as he gets older, he'll definitely recognize
he's already
the
there.
struggles.
He's there now at 22. So
Yeah, good.
last jump, he ran into a tree. The wind was off, and they all hit the trees. Not just him, but it's everybody. But you both chose the service that loses to Navy in football, and that's okay.
When I was there, like during my years, we lost every single game for like 14 years straight. So I have the members that didn't watch Army Navy this year. I was like, no, like there's no point in it. I know what's going to happen. But last year, I think
Army won last year.
Yeah.
So we had hold on, let me finish. I'm talking. All right. So we had the sheriff for last week for Veterans Day. We had our local sheriff. He went to West Point also, and he came in. He spoke, and so before I put him on, I showed the screen of Go Navy and the wins and the losses between Army Navy, who won the most, and everything. So we have a bet that whoever loses, the other person has to wear their hat all day and take multiple pictures and put it on social media. Little does he know is he's going to wear the Dixie cup. So the white hat. Yeah, not a ball cap. I'm sure he's thinking ball cap. No, it's a Dixie cup. So
no, it's funny.
Amy, now do you have something to add?
I do. So I do, or I have in the past done an event out here at Joint Base Lewis McChord called Turkey Drop and Ham Grenade. Ham Grenade was always in the first couple of weeks of December, and it was to give hams to junior enlisted. The first year that the Army beat the Navy, the three-star general was like, okay, everybody gets a Donza, which is a day off with pay. And it was on the day we were delivering the hams to every single unit. So it created like all this logistics nightmare. But it was super funny to me because it was the Army finally beat the Navy.
Finally.
So one other real quick thing. So and it always says, so I served in the Army. Then I got out and I served in the Navy Reserves. My husband served in the Marine Corps, and now he's in the Air Force. But I have a TMF sweatshirt that says Army beat Navy. I'm at my dad's house last night, and my dad's like, really? TMF, a Marine Corps officer, a TMF sweatshirt that says Army beat Navy. You, in my house. Is there a problem here, Dad? This, he goes, huh? I'm just wondering how you can sit down in my house.
That's right.
And I'm like, I'm sitting down very comfortably. Mom, were you going to get me a glass of wine? What was going on?
I totally agree with your dad.
Shocking. That's shocking.
Yeah. Well,
so,
because the Marine Corps is a division of the Navy, a department of the Navy. So
I always tell them it is. It's a little girls division because it's the strongest.
Little girls. Well, the worst part was I had no idea when I first got, and I talked about this before because we talked it with somebody and he was drinking a beer when I said it on our podcast a long time ago, and he spit out because it's like I had no idea. I was a redneck. I grew up dirt poor, and I had no idea that with the Navy and the Marine Corps together at the until you see an Army Navy game and they go, this guy's going off the Marine Corps, this guy's going off the Navy. It's like, oh shit, there it is. Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Anywho, so Brett, let's bring it back to you. So you served in the Army. What did you do? What did you love?
Okay, so I served. I got out as a major. Served about 13 years after I graduated, and I would say my favorite thing I got to do. Oh, this is a tough one. So I got two favorite things. I think I loved flying. I was lucky enough to get transitioned right out of Blackhawks into fixed wing aircraft. And my first duty assignment was Germany, flying fixed wing. And that was just like an absolute blast. They're like, hey, we need you to put 8 hours on the airplane, go up to Scotland for the day. Or, hey, we want to go to Pisa for lunch. And it was like, I was like, this is the coolest job for like a 25-year-old to have. That was like the funnest in terms of like executing on the mission. I think the most enjoyable from like the meaningfulness of it was actually being an ROTC professor. So my very last gig before I got out, I was an ROTC professor at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach. And like, I guess that and company command were like the 2 points where I felt that I was making a difference in the people that I was interacting with rather than just the mission, right? And I think the more enduring kind of impact ends with how you impact people versus just a very tactical, like here and now mission. And I think those things left me with like the longest relationships. People from those times are still following up with me, seeing how I'm doing. I'm seeing how they're doing. And there's meaningful human connection. Again, back to like the statue of people aspect. I I really did enjoy that part of the military the most.
But you're also the generation that has Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all these different things where we can stay connected with people, where prior to that, there wasn't that easy to stay connected. It was through mail. And it's so much better now. It takes, and my wife asked me that, are you connect with all your people? I'm like, no, I know two on the whole face, and they're on Facebook, but we don't reach out to each other. It's a little different. So,
yeah, like we have, it's hard to make time, but like, it's good. It's nice to have the option and the technology to kind of support it. So I definitely recognize that it was not as easy in the past.
well, and you're also in a unique group, pilots.
Yeah,
Right. That's like saying you're on the SEAL team or whatever. I mean, there's only so many of those people who are in those divisions, and that's why they're close knit people in those groups. And that's like yourself. Now you did Blackhawks and then fixed wing. And how long were you in?
13 years.
Okay. And then did you get out because of an injury or because you just were done?
Yeah, so right as I was getting ready to leave the ROTC job, my eyes stopped working. It was a stress-related condition. It was a temporary loss of vision, but it was a potential reoccurring loss of vision. So they were like, "All right, stop." I was on orders to Japan. I was going to go fly VIP. Like the thumbs up is automatically.
Yeah, that's what
showing up.
Yeah, when you do that,
Yeah.
it does the thumbs up on some
I know.
iPhones. Yeah, it's my computer.
But yeah, I was on orders to go to Japan, fly like small jet, like VIP jets. I was really excited about it, and then I lost vision. They're like, "Sorry, off the table. You're gonna have to like be a extra staff officer in Afghanistan for the next year. So pack your bags, have a good one. We'll figure out what you're gonna do when you get back." And I was like, "Wait, how much time do I owe?" And they're like, you don't you're out of any ads." So I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And ultimately, I reflected on this with my wife, and I was like, my life has been a series of multiple choice questions, and I'm ready for like essay form moving forward. So I think I ended up making a decision at that point to kind of explore what it's going to be like to be a civilian. And it's been a wild ride ever since.
So what are you doing now?
All right. So I can give you a quick rundown.
Did you want to ask them the transition Amy story they always ask? Is that what you were going to ask?
Sort of. Like
Okay,
if there was...
let her ask her question.
Okay. So when you transitioned, what year did you get out of the military? And then did you participate in like all the programs that there were for you?
Yeah. So I transitioned in 2018, at tail end of 18. And when I made that decision to leave the military, this whole idea of leveraging the Skill Bridge program became a real thing. And thank goodness it did. I'm very, very I'm incredibly lucky. So there is a new startup ran out of San Francisco called shift.org, and they were looking to place veterans via the Skills Bridge program in tech. And I was like, let me try this out. So I apply the day I make the decision to get out of the Army. And the very next day I get an email back saying, "Hey, you're a perfect candidate. Like, we interview you. Like, let's talk about how we can do this." My chain of command, it was still kind of foggy how to execute on the Skills Bridge program. And I was at an outstation in the middle of nowhere, but I had a good reputation with my brigade commander and my battalion commander. And they were pretty much like, "Go for it. Like, you've been a great," I was the XO to the battalion at that point. And they're like, "Go for it. Like, go do it." So I went to a small company at the time called Affirm. It's a buy now, pay later company you might have seen attached to any purchases with Amazon or Walmart. And I started out there as a diversity inclusion project manager. And that was during my fellowship. They considered it a Skills Bridge fellowship. And I kind of started operationalizing that whole section of the business. And then our chief revenue officer came out of the woodwork and was like, "Hey, I want you to operationalize our go-to-market and our enterprise businesses." And I was like, "Sure, that sounds exciting. It sounds like it's the business end of the business. So let's go for it." And I took that role. Then I fully transitioned after that point into ETS, got out, started. I was a relatively junior employee when I started. But in the course of 3 to 4 years, I worked my way up to becoming the head of business operations and helped take the company go public. and went from like just under 200 employees to over 3,000 employees across a whole bunch of countries. It
Wow.
was a wild ride. Yeah.
Are you still there?
No, I left last year around July, and I was planning on taking some months off just to kind of reset because it was like the best I can equate it to is I helped build out the UAS unit for the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and it was very much like a startup, and it was just this relenting work to do. Relentless amount of just effort that needs to be put in. And the 4 years at a firm, 4 or 5 years, I just got burnt out. So I'm like, I need a break. And I attempted to take a break. And then a company in New York was like, hey, would you be interested in becoming our COO, helping build a seed stage company in the financial space? And I was like, you know what? Like, let me take the interview. And I chatted with the CEO, really young CEO, like a Harvard dropout, 21 years old at the time. And I was like, you know what? Something feels right about him. Something feels right about the business model. Something feels right about what we're trying to accomplish. And I said, if you're willing to pay for me to move across the country, I'll give it a try. So here I am.
And now I'm going, now I know this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, sorry, they reached out to me to do some videos for them because of my stuff I do on social media and YouTube, and that they were like, our person's was in the military. Let's have him on your podcast. Okay. And so because you had to reschedule, because I'm thinking, God, I know this guy, but I really, it's been one of those days today. I started at 6 o'clock this morning, Rotary board meeting, then one thing after another. So yeah. Is it that your app is really that whole thing and how you can follow? So Amy, what you don't understand is the company he works for helps you invest. Like if you want to do exactly what the politicians are doing with their portfolio, you could mimic their portfolio and invest in it. You understand what I mean by that? So if you know anything about Nancy Pelosi, she's worth so much money. Well, because of the fact that what you don't know, she got Visa shares as, founder shares back in the 90s. But since then, her husband has created their portfolio that's through the roof, but it's all because of things that they're involved with. And you can follow every politician's portfolio that they have of stocks and stuff like that of what they're purchasing. And you can do the same thing. Or it's, you can do what Buffett's doing and the whole thing. And it's just it's a unique take on the whole thing. I really like what you guys do. I have to get back out to him to do the videos. I just haven't had a chance because everything that's been going on this year.
Yeah, no stress. Yeah. And it's essentially copy trading where you can essentially follow along with other people's investments. And the ones that he mentioned are, we essentially process their 13F SEC filings, and it's not necessarily exactly in real time for those individuals, but we are also going out and sourcing really talented investment managers. And we have an in-house quant investor that's building out some really fun portfolios. And we're looking to build an ecosystem of peer-to-peer strategy trading that can happen, and you could trade with each other kind of without having to go find your own brokerage and sort through all the mess of figuring out what to do and when. Simplifying it, really. Yeah.
Whoever's being successful, you can do what they're doing.
Exactly.
And mimic it. And so you don't have to well, my guy told me to be in this, it's not the old days of E.F. Hutton. Anyway, that's an old joke, but you have to be old for that one. But it's a great take on it. And then once I was like, that is really amazing. I like what you guys are doing. So
awesome. Appreciate that. It's been a wild ride. I'll tell you, I got here, there was 5 people. We're just trying to get it figured out. And now we're fully regulated by FINRA and the SEC. So it's pretty
because I told him, I said, I want to get involved in some way because I like what you guys are doing. It's amazing what you're doing because it's a unique take on it where other people aren't thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I saw a post today that said, it's a different set of skills that sustains money than that makes money. And
I concur with that statement.
But it's so the woman that posted it, I asked her, what habits does she have that she sees as what allowed her to pivot from just making money to understanding how to sustain money? Because it's a conversation I've had with my family, and I think I've had with many many like junior enlisted service members who, when you're trying to get them to understand how money works, and even, coming from the credit union perspective of banking and different things like that, I feel like there's a disconnect. It's keeping up with the Joneses. I have this really hard job, so therefore I have earned the right to have a Mercedes or a Jeep Wrangler or whatever it is that really doesn't get them to the next level of understanding money. But it's the mindset of what you deserve versus what you're going for. But but I still personally struggle with this of understanding how to articulate what concepts are needed or what habits are needed. So mimicking is a neat way to go about it, but it's still interesting.
Yeah, I think for folks that are at the beginning of their career, like my biggest encouraging thing to provide is like your spending habits outweigh the impacts of your investing behaviors. Like it's much easier to spend all your money than it is to retain it, and it's even harder to grow it, right? So ultimately, my mindset is I always try to optimize for financial freedom, and that is the ability to not have to wait for the next paycheck. Freedom to me is not being attached to that next payment and being able to have agency over what I do. And I think that's to me, it's much more valuable than any possession that I own is my freedom. And I think, especially for people in the military that fight for freedom or get locked into long-term contracts that they don't want to be in, like freedom is an incredibly powerful thing that luckily as U.S. folks, we have the capability of kind of being born into, but then also maintaining it on like a financial and personal level is incredibly important, and a professional level. So that's my hot take, but I'm just a guy.
You're just a guy.
Just a guy.
No, what I like about it is you level the field for somebody, right? So this is what this person is doing. Now you can invest whatever the number is. You don't have to hire, get to a certain level and then hire the right people to oversee your money. Or I'm sorry, you're only at 500,000. You need $1 million before we can oversee your money, right? And now you could actually, okay, what is this guy doing? What is that guy doing? And then what's nice about it is if you're doing well, you can tell other people this is what I'm doing and then get paid for that. So it's a really great, unique idea. I don't know how many times I can keep saying that, but I'll shut up.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Anyhow,
no, I really do
it is a
appreciate
fan, and he'd like to say he's a fan.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm a fan. It's just, it's great. It's what should have been. See, what's the issue now that we're dealing with is stuff that we never had before, right? Today, somebody can be more successful than they've ever been, but the biggest problem is figuring out what they're going to do because there's so many choices. Over the past 30 years, there wasn't that many choices. You had each year we got more and more and more. Now it's like, okay, what's their new tomorrow? Okay, that's what I can get into. It's a totally different world. And there's no reason people can't do other things to be more successful with inside their multiple, I don't want to say jobs, but multiple streams of income and many different things.
The side hustle is real.
Job. Huh?
Yeah. The side hustle is like a real thing. I've seen like in tech, a lot of people are starting to have a lot of jobs that give them flexibility. Instead of having their one job, they go 9 to 5 on. They're building in optionality into like their lifestyle. It's absolutely great. Like I love it.
See, I'm out of Modesto, California, so I see people from the Bay Area technically having 2 jobs. They're working for Oracle and they're working for Facebook at the same time. It's supposed to be 2 8-hour jobs, but they're doing it remotely, and it's really if you figure a real full-time job, there's all these interruptions. It's really, 4 to 5 hours. So they're getting all that done in 10 hours and working 2 full-time jobs that are paying them a lot of money.
Oh, 100%. Like I have a buddy, I'm like, wait, what? Like, how do they not know about this? Like, didn't you sign something? But he's like, hey, I'm performing. I'm getting promoted in both jobs. I was like, more, you got to hustle, right? You just got to get stuff done. You got to look out for yourself. So, take advantage of it.
I even do that in the nonprofit world. Like, I work for
We're
Tiemeyer.
talking about making money, Amy.
I know, but it's the same. It's the same concept. You're talking about the same concept. So to me, like I do TMF, But then MVP, I'm 5 to 8 hours of volunteer work, but I'm doing our chapter is doing almost as many events as chapters who have full-time paid staff. And I'm one volunteer and still doing it in 10 hours a week. And so to me, it goes, it's the same. But here's where I believe your work ethic is your work ethic, regardless of pay. I agreed to do a certain set of things, and so I'm going to do them regardless of payment because that's who I am. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but a lot of that's beat into us from being veterans.
Yeah, you're right. Like you are, trust me, like being on the other side of this, on the very, very capitalistic side of things, people, a large majority of people work to as much as they need to. And then they go do their side hustle, or they go hang out, or they do that. Now, the one good thing that I like about tech is we also offer all of our employees equity in the company. So it incentivizes them to work as hard as possible to make sure the business, we have shared mutual outcomes, positive outcomes. So I do think it's a better version of capitalism when everybody has skin in the game, and a potential upside for working hard, which is something that I didn't have in the military because we all got promoted at the same time. We all got paid the same thing, no matter if you're doing, hard work or you're just hanging out. And that's, the lack of meritocracy in the military was another one of the reasons why I wanted to get out, because I worked my butt off. And they're like, okay, cool, you're going to get promoted when everybody else does. What are you thinking? Like, I was like, is that all you have to offer? Like, I try. Like, that guy doesn't try. Like, why do I have to deal with this?
Time and rank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's my issue why I got out of the Navy, because after 5 years and 5 months and 14 days, I knew, we couldn't get promoted because nobody was leaving. And it wasn't that we didn't pass the tests and we're top of the thing. It was not that. It was just people weren't getting out. And so they couldn't promote you. And it was like, this is ridiculous. I watched my son, go up so many ranks in the first 4 years. I was like, holy cow, and the Army just advances so much faster, period. But it is, you are right. It's based off of not necessarily what you do, but the time that you do and everything else. But he's been lucky. The commands he's been at, whatever he's done, he's getting recognized and he's moved up the chain a lot faster.
That's awesome. I know I was in right during like the rush into Iraq and Afghanistan. So people are getting promoted crazy fast, but like I knew some people that probably shouldn't have been promoted getting promoted crazy fast, which also turned me off. And I was just like, whether I'm not getting promoted or people are getting promoted too quickly around me that just aren't pulling their weight is like enough to like drive me mad. I remember my first promotion in the civilian world where they're like, you're trying hard. We're going to give you a promotion and we're going to give you a raise. And it's not based off of like, I was like, wait, like it's not during the official cycle. They're like, we don't care. Like you're doing good. Like here's more money. Like take my money. I was like, I've been doing this for 13 years and they keep telling me I got to wait until I wait. And now they're just like, thanks for your work. And I'm going to recognize you for that. Tremendous.
How would you recommend more veterans getting into jobs? Good jobs like tech world, that because those are good jobs unless you start at a startup that fails. Because that's the problem where I'm at. I'm outside of San Francisco. There's been so many failures and so many people who worked for 2 years for nothing and got nothing really.
No, that's true. Like there is a certain like macroeconomic luck and timing to when you're getting into the tech startup world. But I spend 3 hours a week to anybody who wants to talk. I will take anybody who reaches out to me on LinkedIn. I go to all kinds of networking events for veterans in New York City. I love this topic because I am extremely fortunate for what has been given to me. And I will try to push this as far down and pay it forward as much as I can. And ultimately, like my big four are going to be when you're looking for a job, don't just apply. You need a unique conduit into the organization so people can understand your portfolio. As in tech, people are going to look. I got in through this fellowship program, and I was originally with the recruiting team. I'm like, what do you think about my resume? They're like, I have no clue what it says. I would have never even called you back. And I was like, well, that's good to know. Well, thanks. But you need to look for champions for veterans inside an organization. So that means go on LinkedIn, figure out, are there any senior ranking veterans in that organization? If not, is there an employee resource group, an ERG? If there is, figure out who's connected to it and say, hey, I'm interested in your company. This is who I am. I'm transitioning. Can you refer me into the business? And then 3, these organizations like shift.org or Breakline or a million other local ones. The ones I'm mentioning are primarily really focused on tech. They do an amazing job at vetting you, prepping you, coaching you, training you, and then grooming your resume into what it should make sense in the world of tech, and then pushing you forward to their contacts into those businesses, which are usually folks on the diversity and inclusion side looking to bring on more veterans. And that's step 1. Step 2, don't underestimate your military leadership. Leadership is a massive, no matter what rank you are or what you've done, you've been exposed to things that most of these tech folks have never touched in their life. And the pure ability to get stuff done. GSD. I was known as the GSD guy. I don't have an MBA. I really haven't done much in terms of business, but I was leading a biz ops team because I got stuff done. And they appreciated that ability for me to move the needle. And that was thanks to my military skills. 3, don't be scared of on-the-job training. Don't apply to what you think you're suited for. Actually apply to things that you want to do and keep pushing. And then 4th, like resilience, like you're going to get told no, you're going to get turned around. And as long as you continue to push up the hill, you'll be fine. I don't know where Ed went, but I kept going anyway.
He's almost back.
Sorry,
All right,
my camera's going. We've been working too long today, and I'm powering off. Sorry about that.
Well, Ed, just to fill you in, I just went through the whole 4. I kept going even without you there.
That's okay. That's why I dropped out so people wouldn't see everything. So
yeah,
I'll rewatch it. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No, it's just important to help out more vets because, like, I don't know if you heard in the beginning, I'm putting together a fire walk for vets to help them get past their issues and PTSD and other stuff, whatever it is. I don't care. And I interviewed a guy on one of my podcasts, David Albin. He did it 15 years for Anthony Robbins, and then he did it for Google and a bunch of other stuff. And we were talking and something he wanted to do. I'm like, I'm in. And they tried to do it on the East Coast, having issues. I have it here. We scheduled it for April 13th. We're just trying to get the location, and we have 100 that we're covering, and we're trying to get more. So I'm covering 100, and we're getting more money to cover up to another 3, total of 300. The goal is to move this all over the country.
Love it. So, this is the type of stuff that moves the needle. Like, every one of these engagements, every one of these events, like, it's so important. Like, find community, especially the veteran community, celebrate veteran community, and don't be ashamed of who you are. Like, I've been told by a few of my fellow peers that were transitioning around me, like, hey, like, quit being the Army guy. I'm like, I'll never quit being the Army guy. Like, that's my value prop. Like, of just being a tough, hard charging guy that wants to get stuff done. And like, it's gotten me here, and I'm excited to be where I am doing fun things. I don't look back at all.
Yeah, but a lot of us who were before you, we ran away from our service when we got out. It's different now. It's a totally different world now than it was. And so that's glad that it's coming back and people are okay with it. And that's like helping the brave. Wouldn't be here unless I came back to it. So that's important. I want people to understand, hey, we're here to help vets. Once you take the uniform off any way we can. So that's why we're having this podcast.
I love it. That's why I wanted to be part of it. Like, I will always give back to the community. 100%.
Yes, I think. Amy, what do you got?
Okay. So I think
move back over here.
I was going to say, I agree. And I think even for women veterans, a lot of times we run from our service because sometimes our service wasn't as outstanding of an experience. We don't identify with traditional VSOs, different things like that. So I agree with all those.
What's a VSO, Amy? Because not everybody.
Veteran Service Organization. And
I make everybody fill out their acronym.
And I also think one of the things that I like about our podcast is that if you're a veteran, we want you to come and share your story. So a lot of veteran podcasts are kind of the superstar veterans, which you, Brett, would.
You definitely are. So yeah,
you would be considered a superstar, and so we appreciate and thank you for coming on our podcast. But what I like is that the everyday veteran is just as welcome here in this space. And what we have learned is there's a lot of And I identified that junior enlisted leaving service oftentimes don't have the same opportunities as the senior enlisted and officers. But we've also identified that a lot of times that younger veteran is not in the right mind space, doesn't even isn't necessarily as open to, in a way, like it is open to tutelage, and so it opens up a broader and a different conversation. Yet they're the ones that are losing or have loss of purpose, having a hard time finding their identities and different things like that. And so through all these conversations, I feel are incredibly important. But I will definitely look into your app and look at the investment portion of it, because like I said, I would love to pierce the veil of understanding for people who um, would like better a better stepping or a map,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah.
Like my
Did you
dad
have,
is incredible, but he didn't give me a map for how you invest.
well, most people back then is different. What did you say the name of your company in your app?
Yeah, it's Dub. It's called Dub. I'm not in love with the name. It's a reference to like dubbing a record, copying a record. But essentially, you could find us. We're iOS only right now at Dub Invest. When you search the Google or the Apple Place or the Apple Store, and you'll see it. It's a D with a kind of black and gold background. And come on down. It's going to be exciting. But again, I'm not here to hawk
No.
the app. What I'm here to do is make sure that like I share my story, and
Mhm.
I want to also like, don't worry about my app. Come text me and see like if you have any questions, looking for some advice. Like that's what I really want to give back here. So like, I'm very excited about that.
But I think, all right, and this is my take on it. Your app would help a lot of veterans trying to figure out how to invest. That's why I wanted to bring it up there,
Yeah.
because we go back to, and please, this is no negative, but a lot of officers, yes, they know leadership, but a lot of enlisted know more about leadership because they're handling more and more people all day long than what.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them don't really get the recognition, or companies understand that. They think, oh, officer only. Oh, they don't understand the difference. And so we need to get that information out there so people understand, hey, that's what this rank equals and what they did and that kind of stuff. And I think people enlisted and people getting out, they don't understand how to get their resume right and how to do it and how to do, or pay for people to do it for themselves.
Yeah. Like it's so incredible to like, it's literally deciphering their resume, because when you break it down, like there's fundamental skills that you are all learning every day, and there's just this, it's hard to contextualize it through a civilian mindset, and I don't blame it. Like if you're not a civilian, you can't contextualize those fundamental skills quite, it's
Well, it's like when people go, they taught me how to make a bed. No, they taught you attention to detail.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That's what they just broke it down to the most basic way somebody who just getting in can understand that, and how you put things and how you do certain things. You're listening to attention to detail. You're all that different things that most civilians have no idea about. We learn and is important.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we understand the SOP. So if someone's not there today, we know what to do because we know those operating procedures and we can move forward, where most civilians don't know that. I'm saying that after being out for a very long time. They don't understand what's an SOP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why I'm like, I have like a little notes page on everything we do around here at the company. I'm like, I'm going to document everything. I'm going to make it searchable. And if I disappear tomorrow, like things will go on. Like I keep remember that movie, We Were Soldiers, now and again. And Hal Moore rips the guy off the helicopter and says, all right, he's dead. What do we do? And they're just like, I was like, that's example of like, that's what you need to beat into people. Like you're replaceable.
Right. And well, you might have to move on to something else, and you're not there today. And you need all businesses need to be able to run with anybody put in that place, and they should be able to pick up and move forward. That cross train everybody, and most people don't even want to show up to work these days, so it's a lot harder. So
yeah, but that's one nice thing about being a small company. Like we're all in it together. We know, can look at everybody and be like, let's go do this. And
you guys are only based in New York, right?
yeah, well, most of our employees are in New York proper, but we do have some engineers in the Philippines and Brazil. They're incredibly talented folks. Very proud of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of talented people all over the world because I do a
Mhm.
lot of video podcast and I use people from all over. Yeah.
Yeah, those are some real gems. They've been with the company longer than I have.
All right, Brett, what else you want to put on there before we go? Anything else you want to add?
Honestly, like my most heartfelt and sincere encouragement to everybody making this transition that I've just recently made. It's been it's had its ups, it's had its downs. I've doubted myself severely. I have also learned so incredibly much, and I think um, one thing that I encourage people to realize is like you're not done learning and going into application mode when you get out. Like I've learned more in the last 5 years of being out of the Army than almost all of my time within the Army. And that's because I've been open to learning. I find good mentors. I seek out difficult situations that make me feel uncomfortable. And I love it. If you ever feel like you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I try to abide by that, where I always feel constantly this sense of letting everybody down around me, and that tends to mean that I'm putting myself around the people that are going to drive me to be the best version of myself. So don't just wait for a handout. Don't expect a free ride because you're a veteran. Fight, fight, fight all the way through it, and it's going to be hard, but it will be rewarding if done with dedication and perseverance.
So, are you on social media? You said LinkedIn. Anywhere else?
LinkedIn is going to be the way to get to me. Everything else, I just moved off of social media quite a bit. So I have it there for monitoring purposes, very like passive form of engagement. So if you're going to hit me up, I don't know if you're going to provide a link to my LinkedIn, but that would be the best place to find me.
Just
And
your
that's
last
where,
name.
yeah,
That's the ping you just got was me connecting.
I love it. All right, now we're hooked in.
Well, no, you got to say okay first of all, but afterwards,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
Don't,
yeah.
I'll
You got
do
to
it
click
in a
on the link
second.
and
my
say, "Yeah, I'll
advice.
be part of that guy," but he's horrible. Get rid of him.
I love it.
All right. Well, it was very nice having you on the show and telling your story. And how, there's a lot of encouragement. We got to help vets. Period. Get through. If they have issues, we're here for them. Figuring out what to do, because we do lose our purpose once we get out, and especially if, for most people, if it was an injury or something, they're gung ho, and then all of a sudden you're out, and they're like, I don't know what to do now. So, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for explaining how you used a couple of the different things that were out there. And Amy, anything else?
Nope. Thank you for your service as well. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate that you responded back to my email and stuff like that. That's always nice because then I feel confident.
Yeah.
All right, don't run away. But thanks for being here, Brett. We really appreciate it. Amy,
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you for watching. We really appreciate you. Best thing you can do is just go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to Helping the Brave, and make it a great day. And we'll talk to you next week.